I guess it's,
No, I promise I won't touch it.
yeah, I don't know, I missed it one. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Is that going?
Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Personnel Committee for Tuesday, February 28th, 2017. I'm Alderman Stoyer. I'm here. Alderman Duane is here. Alderman Slack is here. Alderman Moore will be a little bit late. So, adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Say,
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Approval of the minutes from the January 31st,
Move
2007. Okay, we have a move. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Number 4, consideration with possible action on request to fill the new position of Forestry Worker 2 in Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, approved as part of the 2017 budget, and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers.
Second.
Okay, that was quick. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes. And we'll hold it for a second for Mr. Moore.
better.
You better. Alderman Moore is now here.
Number 5.
Number 5, so we, consideration with possible action on request to convert and fill the vacant wellness coordinator position currently being contracted through Bell and Health at $31.20 per hour to a full-time exempt city position in human resources at pay grade 35, 52.8 to 65.765, and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. Funding from this position will continue to be through the city's 701 Fund for Health and Dental Insurance.
Just have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just full-time? I mean, is she gonna be here 8 hours a day?
Yes, it will be a full, well, I don't know that it will be a full-time position, but because of the needs of the city, they're gonna have some flexibility, so, but they will be 40 hours a
When
week.
you say flexibility, what is?
Well, they might
I
have to
wanna
do
hear what
some
you're-
evenings, some early mornings, maybe even a Saturday or Sunday, because we have 24/7 operations.
Mhm.
But they will work 40 hours a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Okay, gentlemen, do you have any questions?
Yes, I
Thomas?
have one. In the recommendation sheet provided, it says the average market rate for this position is $60,000. How is that determined?
We talked with our, the individual or the company that's working on our salary study right now, and asked them what they saw as a market rate. So they go out and they look at a lot of information. Some of it's based on public, some of it's based on private, and then areas. And they were the ones that came back and said that the average market rate for this position is about $60,000.
Okay. And I have a question about there's a table on the handout. And the table, under current salary, it lists the contracted position. And it
Correct.
says salary 47,965 and other costs 16,931.
Right.
What are the other costs?
Well, it's whatever we know what we pay per hour to Bellin, and we know what the salary of the individual is, so we backed into it. So it's whatever administrative costs they might have for that position. So any benefits they provide to that position, FICA, and there could even be some administrative costs in there, but whatever they're providing, because it's a Bellin employee.
So that would include their markup.
Correct.
But what the employee gets is 47,965.
That's their salary, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Plus benefits.
Okay? I have no other questions.
Joe, you have anything? I was going to ask Lynn, on item C, city employee versus contracted employee. Might be a simple question, but in the past 10 years, there have been at least 6 coordinators in this position, and I presume that's partly because of the salary structure? Or is there other reasons that you can attribute to that?
Well, I think some of it's salary structure. I think some of it is because we have contracted. We haven't always had somebody that was a wellness professional or in that business. We had nurses in there up until a couple of years ago. So I think there was just a lot of movement because of that. It had always been contracted out. That's why we think bringing it in-house will actually, and because it's full-time now, that we think that actually might change some of that. And some of it's also the salary.
Plus, it's a general trend now for private and public sectors
Absolutely.
to have someone like this on board.
Yes, and I think with what we're doing right now in the city with our wellness programs, we've had someone in that capacity for the last 10 years. And we hate to actually see her go because I think she started to establish some credibility in relationships. But we did meet with the benefit committee. Some of those members are here. They're very supportive of this. They see this as a trend and the direction that the city needs to go.
One other thing too, they were saying, there's 480 employees, I guess, that are on the background in the past 10 years. They're talking about 480 eligible employees registered for the 1265 program.
Right.
So how many city employees do we have right now? So
We have
900?
about 950.
Okay, so I realize there's other groups that are
Right.
outside of that.
Right, we have about a little over 500 that are qualified to participate right now in Health 1265. But we have had some interest and are in some discussions actually with one of our major union groups about this. So I think there's some possibility that others will be joining as well.
And I guess the question I had is that, that's about a little less than half, about half the employees that are on this already.
Mm-hmm.
So to say that this position is necessary for that smaller percentage, is that, unless I'm missing something?
Well, I think it's part of it is for that position, but also because they do other things too. Even though right now, police and fire haven't been, the larger groups, union groups aren't under Health 1265, this position still does a lot of work with police and fire as well. So it's general wellness programs for everybody. It's not all
Okay.
just Health 1265. That happens to be kind of our
Just
initiative that we're kind of directing to, but they're very involved in health and wellness in other areas as well.
Okay. Was there anybody in the audience that cared to comment on this at all? Otherwise, okay. Gentlemen, do you have any?
I have just one more question.
Go ahead.
Lynn, to whom in your department will this person report?
This position reports to the HR operations manager, which is Melanie.
Okay,
And that's where it has been reporting as the contract position as well.
all right, thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, by Alderman Moore, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. All right, number 6, consideration with possible action on request to reclassify and fill the civilian position of Senior Humane Animal Control Officer to a sworn position of Humane Police Officer in the Police Department, and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. This staffing change will result in an increase in total compensation of $25,879.
Move to approve.
Okay,
Second for discussion.
okay, all right. Chief, you're here.
I am here, thank you, gentlemen, and thanks for considering this request. My goal for the animal services portion of the police department is like my goal for the rest of the police department. I want our animal services department section to be the best animal services department in the state of Wisconsin. If we didn't have Officer Maves applying for this job, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be doing a nationwide search for a civilian person to come in here and to do it just like we've been doing it year after year after year. But I think we have a unique opportunity here to have Officer Maves take over this position as a sworn position. I like the idea of having a sworn officer in there. I think they do a lot of dangerous things. They go into people's homes, they take their dogs away, and the fact that we have someone who's fully trained, who's been a police officer here for 7 years, who carries a gun, who carries a taser, who carries pepper spray and all those things, and has that amount of training, I think would be advantageous for us. In addition, when she's not doing animal control stuff, this person, if it's a sworn person, could handle additional police calls, as Officer Maves has done. We did a check over 90 days that she's been in this temporary assignment. She handled, in addition to 539 animal calls, which is about 100 more than they handled the year prior in that same 30-day or 90-day period. She handled 44 non-animal calls. Those are police calls that a regular patrol officer would have handled. I think in terms of safety, I think it's a great opportunity for us. I know the cost is expensive, and $25,000 is a big bite. But if you take out the salary, if you just consider the salary, if you take out the fringe benefits, her husband's on the department, and they have a family plan for insurance. So that would be, she gets health insurance and she gets dental insurance on his part of it. So we wouldn't have to have that as part of the cost. And I think that I'm ballparking at $10,000 or $15,000 for that for a total. So the real cost of doing this is much less. We all know the history of animal services and the contentious relationship we had with the with the Humane Society. We're back in a contract with them, and I would say it's going well, I think would be an understatement. The woman volunteered to drive up here from Oshkosh to speak with you about it and to discuss how well it's going with Officer Maves in charge right now. And as I said, she's been doing this for a couple months now. We ran this ad to fill that position. We didn't get any other interest from police officers. So I'm very confident, I'm pretty confident that she will be the person who applies, and if she applies, I can't see someone else with higher qualifications than she has. I think she was made for this position. She was this animal service intern for 3 years before she joined the police department as a sworn officer, and she's been doing that and doing a great job for the past 7 years. So I would, pardon me?
I was just gonna ask, what percentage, did you talk about what percentage she would be doing this, plus her other duties? I mean, as a sworn
Well, this will be
officer.
her main
That'll be
job,
the main
but
job.
for instance, she was discussing how she works, and she goes from call to call. She's very busy, obviously, as the only animal service person out there. But if she's near a call, she'll jump on it, handle an accident. She's made arrests as an animal service officer. Someone, she goes into their house, they're on probation, she's able to make an arrest if somebody's violating their probation. She has handled, just in addition to the animal calls, 539, she's done retail theft, welfare checks, 911 hang-up calls, emergency committals, the EM1s for mental health, death investigations, 3 traffic collisions, drug investigations, things like that, that a regular animal service person would do. So it gives us additional officer on the field who can respond to those calls and who can be there.
Okay.
I would suggest that if we don't have her and if she doesn't get this position, then we go back to a civilian position. I don't want to force some officer into a spot like this that's not really intent on doing a great job. I'd be willing to say I'd come back in a year, and if you're not, and I've already talked with her about it, if you're not completely happy with the performance of the Animal Services Department of the Police Department, then she'd be happy to go back to patrol. And I think, as I said, I've had Dr. Warpinski, or the head of Animal Services, who'd be happy to come down here and tell you how things are going very well with them.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, I did talk to Dr. Warpinski for a long time, and to tell you that they are delighted is an understatement. He told me under no circumstances have they ever been happier with the officer that's coming, the way everything's handled, the stress of it all, knowing it's done professionally. And like you just said, if he needs to come to a council meeting or something like that, he's more than willing to do it. And it's not only working, just the attitude over there. And obviously with the people in Green Bay, it's been a tremendous. And he wanted to make sure that I put that up, that he knew, because he had called me and he stressed the fact that he's praying that we keep this officer on.
If she were to retire or resign or decided she didn't like doing that and would revert back to being a patrol officer, then I'd come back here and I would make a pitch for it to be a civilian position again. But to have the advantage of an extra patrol officer out there, but not just a patrol officer, someone who's really was made to do this job, I think. I think it's a huge advantage for the city.
Alder Dorr?
Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, and Protection and Welfare Officer Mavis has come twice to testify to us, and it was actually the same situation. It was a hearing. She does an excellent job. You know, she has excellent write-ups. She is very clear on exactly what has happened, and she gives, I think, very good recommendations on what we might want to do. We chose to ignore her recommendation the first time. Much to my chagrin, we were wrong, I believe. And so the second time there was a dangerous animal that did do another dangerous act. So this animal will either not be here or will be euthanized. But she just handles herself so well. I'm very impressed with her. And I've seen, her in action at our meetings. I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Alder. Joe? Tom? Go ahead.
This is not about the performance of Officer Maves. I mean, I'm sure she does a wonderful
She
job.
does, yes, sir.
I understand that the people we work with are very happy. But you originally came forward on this and made the pitch that this needs to be a sworn officer position. When I hear you say if Officer Maves were to step out of the position, you'd come back and say we should make it civilian, that's a little bit problematic, Chief, because it undercuts the case you made for why it shouldn't be civilian.
I understand that. And the main reason behind that is because we put it up for a posting. When we have an opening like this, for a loaned position like this, we post it up on the wall for 10 days, and we allow anybody who's interested to come and pick it. We got zero interest. We posted it up twice. Not another soul in the police department wanted this position, which was kind of disappointing to me because I thought this would be an interesting position. I have a passion for animals, and I've been a big supporter of our animal services department where I used to work. And I was kind of disappointed that we didn't have more people in there. But I think to force someone into a position like this, to say you're the animal services officer, to not someone who's not just willing but eager to do it, I think might be a mistake. I really think the officer safety part of it is probably the biggest concern I have, the public safety part of it, to having a person out there who's armed and trained and can handle those situations, plus give us an additional officer in the field is a huge part of it. But the fact, over the past couple months that we've had it posted and nobody's been interested, again, a little bit disappointing to me, and I wouldn't want to force someone into this position that didn't want it.
Well, I'm not, I mean, this is a change in our organization chart, and there's a cost that comes with it.
Sure.
And I typically wouldn't see changing our organization design because of one person and one opportunity. So I'm still reluctant to do this. And my experience with animal control, and I'll admit it's limited, I still have questions about whether the nature of the work is such that we need a sworn officer doing this. I mean, you know, my personal experience is things like having a feral cat in my garage. So I call, and an intern comes out, sets out a trap, comes back the next morning, picks up the trapped cat and takes it away.
Right.
Is there a way we could get, is there a fairly straightforward way that you could show us the animal calls for, say, the last 6 months or last year, and we could get an impression for how often these calls are at a level that a sworn officer is needed?
I don't have that person with me, but Officer Maeve's been working there for 3 months, and she was an intern for 3 years prior to that, and has been working closely with Sharon on cases throughout the time she's here. I could invite her to come up and give a rundown of
I'd like to hear that.
some of the calls that she's been handling.
But let me say, I'm
Oh.
really more interested in seeing the data.
Right. Right, and I don't have the data that shows the breakdown of the calls unless you do. Let me see if I can find it in my little stack of stuff here while you're talking.
Hey,
Hi.
officer.
Hi. Sorry. Yes, we do respond to trap calls. It is a nuisance issue with animals running loose in the city. Not only that, we respond to different things. 2 weeks ago, I responded to an animal abuse case, which led into drugs, possible dog fighting. I seized 6 dogs from a house, and that was just on a barking dog and a loose dog complaint, and it kind of unraveled into everything else. The dog owner went to jail. He's on probation, and I have charges that are referred over to the DA's office right now pending that case. And he was taken into custody by myself. That is just one case. One of the other things is, it's important to me is our world has changed a little bit. School shootings are pretty common at this point. And doing animal control, if I was in an area near a school and I got the call that there's an active shooter, you bet I'm going to drop everything and go deal with that and address that issue. That's a concern that I'd be dealing with too as doing patrol work. As far as additional animal calls, we have such a variety of calls that we deal with. Obviously there's the death calls that go on. There's the barking dog complaints. There's the people with exotic animals. We've had wolf hybrids in the city, koi hybrids, which is a coyote dog hybrid. We've had cat hybrids. They're savanna cats. They're from Africa. They're very large cats. So we deal with that. Not everyone is trained to deal with that kind of stuff. I'm also certified by the state with the Rabies Control Order Program. So I deal with bats. I deal with anything that's infected with rabies. I coordinate with the health department on that because I am certified by the state. So if there's any exposure or anything else like that, the fire department is not euthanized or vaccinated with the rabies vaccine. No one else on the department is. I am. So I'd be the one who would have to get called to deal with that specifically because of the exposure that would come with that. I'm trying to think what else.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Being certified on rabies and having that vaccine, that's something that a civilian could, in that position, could do just as well, right?
They could acquire that, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to determine, I mean, if we're gonna make a change to the organization, that's gonna cost more money. Is there a problem we're really solving?
I guess I'm not understanding what you're
I
saying.
mean, animal control is not an area where I was aware that we had problems or complaints or insufficiency of service. So why do we have to pay more to do animal control?
Tom had a point. He was going to throw it.
Yeah, I can answer that, Tom.
Thank
I
you.
rode with Sharon as a couple times with her, and in my years here. In fact, I was probably with her 3 times. And out of the 7 calls we did one day, 6 of them, we had to bring an officer. She called an officer. And, you know, another time, she called an officer 3 times. So that really happens a lot, especially when you come with the way things are developing with drugs nowadays, with the heroin coming in and all that stuff. They all have pit bulls or they have dogs that are dangerous. So you're more likely to have to call police officers more times than in the past. But I think if the data you might want to look at the last year and find out how many times when Sharon was there, she had to actually call a police officer.
That's what
When-
I'm interested in.
Yeah,
I'm interested
and
in
that
seeing
happened a
that
lot.
data.
Yeah, and
Is
so
there
we're
a-
I
always.
hear you
yeah.
suggesting from your experience
Yes.
that it's even over 50% of the
Well, I'm just saying
animal
that the
calls.
times I
You
rode it
said
was.
6 out of 7
Yeah.
and then 3.
Yeah, on that, yeah.
So I'd
But
like
that's
to
only
look at
3
the data
rides.
and find out what it really is.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we found across the country and getting more research on it is that animal cruelty is often tied to other crimes. Domestic violence, arson, serial murders, all of us usually get their start with animal cruelty. In Los Angeles, where I came from, they started an animal cruelty task force, which was all sworn officers and detectives. And their job was to go out and investigate these cases of animal cruelty, which once you start peeling back the onion and start looking at some of these dogfighting cases and some of these, other animal fighting cases, they lead into narcotics, they lead into gambling, lead into prostitution, and all kinds of things like that. So it was a good advantage to have sworn officers do that where I came from. In addition, I know our animal services officer goes out with the gang task force, with the narcotics task force, and they will deal with the animals that they have when the narcotics task force guys are doing a raid, which hopefully would prevent them from having to shoot somebody's dog when they're doing a search warrant or things of that nature. Sworn officer can write search warrants. She's very good at testifying in court and able to do those kinds of things on the cases that rise to criminal misconduct.
Is this time sensitive? I mean, do we, in a sense, because I'm strongly for this, but I kind of, I'm listening to Alderman Slotnick on this too, and I understand the budget process, et cetera, and whether or not that information would be available to
I'm
the
sure I can
committee.
find whatever information you like, so if you give me a laundry list, and I don't think it's time sensitive, she's willing to stay in this position on loan. We don't have anybody else, as I
Right.
mentioned, that's
So
clamoring to
it's-
do this
it's
job.
covered. It's covered for now.
Yes, sir.
Is that
So if you give me a laundry list of the things you want, I can
Would-
deliver
Would
to you.
you be
for
able to
next
check
meeting.
how many times she called an officer? Just how many times, like, in a 6-month
Last
period?
year?
I mean,
Sharon?
Sharon?
yeah, sure.
Did-
Yeah.
Tom, would you be?
Because I think,
comfortable with that?
when you see the amount of times that she called an officer in a week or 2 weeks, and you get 4 or 5 calls from her, that's a lot. You know, so.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers, but I
Not
can.
only that, but I mean, I come across people that have warrants or, felony offenses, misdemeanor offenses. I take them into custody right then and there. A civilian can't do that. I issue, I write search warrants. I mean, there's numerous things that I do. I carry Narcan in my vehicle. I've deployed Narcan because people have ingested drugs. I mean, it's just, I can be certain places and do multiple things.
Do you find with your position that, with the animal issues that are out there, that you're keeping up with what's out there right now? Or is there a lot that goes unreported? Or I guess I'm trying to say is, are you keeping up with what is going on right now?
There's plenty to, excuse me, I'm suffering from a cold. There's plenty to keep me busy. From the permit applications that I get, to the neighborhood complaints, the drug issues that I get, I don't have enough time in a day to get done what I need to adequately get done in a day is what it comes down to.
We've hired 2 civilian interns who will do the low-level stuff, the picking up the cat traps, the making sure dogs are licensed, the barking dog things, similar to what our CSIs do. We hired 2 of them. They work 8 to 16 hours per week, and they're just getting trained up now. So we're excited to have them on board as our interns, and they're, very on the very beginning end of the salary scale.
as you go about getting the data, could you also include how many cases of animal cruelty you dealt with in the last year?
Yep.
Joe?
First, pit bulls get such a bad rap. You know, it's really about the upbringing of the poor animals.
I love pit bulls.
Yeah,
Right.
they're not dangerous dogs.
Right.
I don't support a breed-specific ban legislation.
Sure, sure. I'm more interested in talking about the Benjamins here. $25,879 annually to keep an extra sworn officer on the street is, I see a good value in that. How was it budgeted for 2017? And then what would be the plan to, make up for that dollar amount in the future?
My recollection is that we tried to put it in the budget this year, but we weren't able to, and the suggestion, or the direction was that we would come back after the first of the year, after the budget had been settled, and pitch it to
Right.
everybody and see. So that's kind of where it's been. Sharon retired, and she's been basically filling the shoes ever since then, and doing her regular, or at her regular salary.
Have you had some vacancies that kind of offset the dollars that are being spent?
We have had vacancies. We have a couple more vacancies coming up. We have a bunch more retirements at the end of the year. But as you know, we have to return $370,000 back to the city to meet the budget requirements. So those are salaried vacancies that we have to hold. In addition, there's some grandfathered payback times that we're trying to get paid off. So that's another $80,000. I think we're up to about $440,000 that we need to have vacancies for. If we could conceivably add this to that tab there. We've got enough people retiring spring, a couple in the fall, and then a bunch of people are retiring at the end of the year.
And you won't be compromising your services.
Well,
I mean, you will be.
in my perfect world, we'd be at 193 all the time, but we're at about 188 right now with 2 at home waiting for the retirement papers to be finished. Okay.
Last time we had this before the committee, we had delayed it for the 30 days because another question we had was your vision on your direction for the department as far as staffing goes, as far as building a team, or what is your vision here? I mean, is this just the first step of several steps that are just going to continually increase that budget amount?
I think a lot of that depends on how many personnel we have. Right now, I can't conceive of adding any more positions or taking people out of the field to fill specialty positions because we're dropped down to a point where I'm worried about the number of people we have handling our patrol side. And I get the guys from the road are saying, hey, it's slow now because there's not that many radio calls, but come summer, we're going to be pretty busy.
Right.
And we're carrying a lot of vacancies to meet that $370,000 vacancy. So it depends on how quickly we can fill those positions and how quickly we can fill those spots. Typically, when summer rolls around, what I'll do is I'll take all the people that are inside the building doing background investigations on people and doing other things, and I'll move them out onto the road and get as many people out in the patrol side as I can. So the new good news is she would be out in the field. She'd be able to handle the radio calls, as I mentioned. I don't anticipate building that unit up anymore within just a single person in charge with a team of interns underneath them. But I really don't have enough officers that I can do anything else. We did the 2 mental health officers, which I think is paying big dividends in terms of saving officer time. We have a traffic unit that is a response to the community for a lot of traffic concerns that people had, and I think they're doing a good job answering those concerns and mitigating some of the traffic problems we have. But I don't think I have enough people to pull anybody else off into any specialty units. People ask for a gang task force or street crimes task force, and I just don't have the people to do it right now.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks. Tom, did you want to bring a motion forward for that, or?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Oh, you want to?
I already did that. We'll
Okay.
second it for discussion.
All right.
I think this, Mr. Chairman, I think this is something that's very valuable to the city of Green Bay, and I think it makes a world of difference. We've heard it from the Humane Society, you hear about it out in the streets, the
Right.
difference of what it was before to what it is now.
Well,
And I think
I
we
agree
should
with
task-
you. To a sense, I do agree with you on that, but I do respect Alderman Slonick's point on this. It doesn't seem to be time sensitive. It seems like, we can do, if we can, are you okay with waiting a month if we could get all that information and then revisit that?
Even a couple weeks.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that. So, I don't know, Tom, did you want to
My
bring something forward?
Yeah, I'd like to see us wait until we have the data,
So-
have a chance to look it
I'll
over.
respect that, but I'm
I was gonna
the
say,
support.
Yeah.
I support
Well,
it.
right, well then on your motion,
Well, I'll just drop my motion, and we'll
Okay.
just make a motion to hold for 2 weeks.
I move that we hold until we've got the information that the chief is gonna get.
Yeah.
All right, I'd be comfortable with that.
And just so you're clear, you want the number of times in 6 months that our animal service officers had to call an additional officer to the scene?
Right.
Right.
And a second thing you asked are the number of cases of animal cruelty that we've had in the last year. Number of calls,
Right.
number of convictions, things like that.
Is there anything else?
Anything else you can-
That'd be useful. I guess I would also ask you to think about the discussion we had earlier that, you know, if there's justification that this position needs to be a sworn officer, you said that if this officer were to leave the position, you wouldn't come back looking for a sworn officer. I've got a problem with that. I've got
Understand,
a
Lynn.
problem with, we send interns out on these calls. If the level of hazard is really such that this work requires sworn officer, why do we send interns out on calls?
Yeah. And the quick answer to that, and I'll be happy to elaborate in 2 weeks, is that we send our interns out on the low-level calls, just like we would send our CSIs out on the low-level calls. They would handle the, parking problems, the things that aren't likely to result in an arrest or in some type of confrontation. And we'd have the advantage of having a sworn officer handle those higher-level calls.
Do you know on an animal call at the front end, when a call comes in, which type it's gonna be?
Certainly not all the time, picking up the traps is one thing, a barking dog is one thing, but we teach our interns that if anything starts to look like it's going to be dangerous at all, to back off and call in a sworn officer. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So we have that motion, we have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks. All right, next, number 7. Consideration with possible action on request to approve out-of-state travel. Should we do one at a time here?
Yes.
Okay, A, Police Officer Thomas Conley to attend patrol bomb canine handler training in Albuquerque, New Mexico, March 10th to April 29th, 2017, at an estimated cost of $10,400 for transportation, room, board, and canine services to be paid back from Bark and Blue funds.
I'll make a motion to approve, get it started.
Second.
Okay. Did we want to hear anything at all?
I have a question.
Yeah, Tom?
What are
For-
Bark and
for
Blue
discussion.
funds?
Chief, do you have?
What are Bark and Blue funds? Bark and Blue funds were funds that were raised privately by private donors to support our canine program. They typically have events throughout the year. One of the big events they have is over at the St. Brendan's, where they have a canine demonstration, and they do raffles and they do fundraisers, that thing. They have a pretty good nest egg built up. In addition, Ethan Ingham, that we met at the
Yes.
last meeting, gathered, I think, $9,000 that he raised through a GoFundMe page. So those are all the funds that are gathered for Bark and Blue.
The reason I ask is the out-of-state travel request in our packet says funding, it says Department Canine Funds, parentheses, Bark and Blue. So I'm trying to determine, is this coming out of department budgeted money?
It's coming out of funds that were privately raised by the department to support the canine program.
Okay,
So it's,
so this is not coming
Not
from,
taxpayer money.
from
Okay.
your department's canine funding?
Correct.
There's
It's coming
line
from the-
item 54037 in the budget. This is not coming out of that.
From the Bark and Blue Fund is my understanding where that's coming from, which is all privately raised. And people are very supportive of our canine program.
Okay, thank you, I got my answer.
all right, so, Tom, you made a motion to approve?
Mhm.
Okay, do we have a second?
Joe second.
Joe seconded, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. B, Public Works, electronic technician Randy Frailing to attend National Regional Planning Council, NRPC, for radio communications in Dallas, Texas, April 24th, 27th, 2017, at no cost to the city for transportation, room, or board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nice job, Randy, nice job. All right. Next, 8, consideration with possible action on request by Alderman Moore for the following. Eliminating health insurance benefits for elected council members, grandfathering those who currently rely or choose to rely on these benefits for 2018. I'll just take,
Let's take them together.
let's take, okay, B is the elimination of benefits effective with the 2018 spring election. Joe?
Yeah, I don't know if you've got the actual dollars that are being spent right now on the city portion of each, but if, let's just say all 12 members of the council chose to elect the coverage, it's going to be approximately $18,000 a year is the number that I've.
I didn't calculate what would happen if everyone was on it. I do have what we're anticipating that we'll spend in 2017 together, both health and dental, $9,655, so it's slightly more than what's in the budget, but that's what we're projecting we'll spend in 2017.
Okay. I just think we need to start finding some places that we can cut. This is a part-time job. I understand that sometimes we put in full-time hours, but it is a part-time job. And if you want to call it a full-time job, then we need to address our pay because you spread that out over 80 hours for what we're making every 2 weeks. Lynn, want to give us raises? I just think this is a good place to cut, and I think that by grandfathering council members that are on here choose to have it and that they rely on this, then it's kind of a no-brainer, but it also, we make this known publicly ahead of time that these benefits are not offered well before the next election. And, anybody that's looking to run for office thinking they're going to get health, at least they'll be well advised on, what their pay may be or what benefits are included or not included. I think it's a good place to start. We're 2 months into the year and we haven't had a whole lot of any offerings from any council members that have come forward looking at cost savings measures. And we understand that 2018 is going to be a tough budget year and we need to work on it all year long. So I'd like to stick with this and make a motion that we would approve it.
Question.
Do we have a second for discussion? Or?
Second for discussion
Okay.
only.
All right. Go ahead.
Lynn, as someone who does not take this benefit, I don't know the details of this. Can you inform us as to just how does the benefit and the payment work?
Well, the council members are eligible to participate in the city's active dental and/or health plans,
Okay.
and then the city pays 50% of that.
Okay.
So if they have enough in their consul pay, then usually it's taken out of that consul pay because that's a pre-tax.
Okay, so it's a 50-50 split,
Correct.
so the coverage is.
Right.
Thank you.
Alder Dorf?
Is it family or single plan, or is it just a single plan?
It's either.
So it'd be a lot more if they
Right.
chose the family.
If everybody took family plans, it would be more than it currently is, right?
And then by grandfathering, does that mean current people always, if they continue to get elected?
I think while they hold office, same as
While they
the
hold-
retirement,
okay.
there's, even some
Okay.
council members that still have the WRA from back in the day, right?
WRS?
There you go, WRS.
Right, yes.
So the grandfathering.
You probably don't have it, right?
Right, I don't.
So the grandfathering would go on indefinitely?
I think it should be there as long as people that are in office continue to get elected and they've chosen to rely on that benefit, then we should not yank that benefit out from under their feet.
Even though newly elected council members will not be eligible for it.
Right. And it's grandfather, just like I said, the retirement is, just like you and I weren't eligible when we came on for the retirement 5 years ago now.
Mhm.
But
Part-time job. Alder Dorf?
How many council members have it right now?
There's a few.
there's HIPAA, so you can't really say too much.
I'll admit
I can give you
Tell us.
numbers. We have 2 that take health insurance, but only single coverage. And then we have 4 that take dental. 3 of them are family, 1 is single.
So it's,
I just wanted to
Go ahead.
clarify something so there's no
Hold on.
misunderstanding. It isn't 50% of the cost of the insurance. What it is that the person would have to pay the employee's share plus 50% of the employer's share.
Some years, several
right?
years ago, we just went to 50%. So it is 50%. That's what-
Straight
It is a
50%?
straight 50%.
So to put it in relative terms and compare it to a full-time employee pays 14 or 15%, right,
Correct,
of the cost of the insurance. The
correct,
council member would pay 50%.
correct. Actually, an employee, for dental insurance, they pay 87, or they pay 12.5%, and the city pays 87.5%.
And it's 50% for.
And it's
council.
50/50 for council, correct.
Vanessa?
Thank you, Alders. One thing I would request is that you give law a chance to look at this, only because since it is compensation, usually you have to treat everybody the same way. I understand that there's a desire to treat it like the WRS, but I think that's probably allowable because they vested in those. Whereas this one, we might not be able to grandfather them in. So I'd like to have a chance to look at that before you.
So just make a motion to hold it for 2 weeks.
Refer it to law.
Yeah.
Okay, refer it to all. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
A and B.
A and B.
We'll just refer to law, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Should have had you stand up first. Anyway.
Oh, we got some questions answered.
Yeah, well, I know. It's just, number 9, consideration with possible action on a report of routine personnel actions for regular employees.
Move receive and place on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Move to adjourn.
We got
Second?
information.
Oh, we got information.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
excuse
Yeah,
us.
I apologize.
Information only. The Personnel Committee meeting will begin at 4:30 PM on March 14th, 2017. Dr. Carl Nolenberger, Associate Professor in Public Administration at UW-Oshkosh, will make a brief presentation on City Administrator Manager forms of city government and be available to answer questions. In addition to his current role as a professor, Dr. Nolenberger has 40 years of experience as city manager, city administrator, and county administrator, and has assisted a number of communities when considering a city administrator position. Huh?
I just want you to know there's like 20 things going on March 14th, including March Madness.
Oh, okay.
Opening day.
Well, would you like us to, that's why I put this on here, because if I'm gonna have somebody come up here, I wanted to make sure that. people were
There's a
there.
bunch of different events too going on March
Right.
14th. I mean, there's a ton.
What
My
is the
schedule's free.
objective?
Yeah.
I'll come.
I'm sorry,
You're
this is in
not
response to Alderperson Joe Moore put a
Study for
request
the
in
city manager,
for
city
the public,
administrator.
for the city administrator to consider, and so that was gonna be on the agenda, and I talked to Dr. Nolenberger to see if he could answer any questions that you might have in
This
regards to it.
This is pre-work for an item that has been referred to the committee?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Now,
I
how
just
long
thought
do
I'd
you
bring them
think-
together, because I thought it would be helpful to you, to at least have someone who, he's written papers and things on it, he's got numbers, and I asked for survey data, so he can give you some of that
How
information.
long, I mean, as far as the presentation, I mean, what do you
I
think?
asked him to
Depends
do
on
about
the
10,
Yeah, right.
you
Well,
know,
of course,
10,
Joe,
15
you'll-
minutes. but
How many?
10 to 15 minutes was my
I
thinking,
don't know,
but,
I think.
yeah, it's up to you if you want to have it
I
on the
was only
stage. or-
joking.
Yeah, were you?
All right,
Kind of.
Kind of.
it's just informational.
We'll be fine. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
We gotta see if Mike Roenick can maybe get the games up on.
Mike